Welcome to Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. It's 2 in the morning on the East Coast of the United States. I have no idea what time it is down and under, but it is time for Shiny Side Out with Dave and Mecky. So I hope you have your tinfoil hat all made and cinched down tight over your ears. So take it away, Dave and Mecky.
Welcome to Shiny Side Out with Dave. Well, Mecky is there. He is on WZZR, broadcasting from Australia for the Revolution Radio on freedomslips.com, where it's more than just radio. So jump into the chat room if you can. This is show number 290.
0, 90, and 200 doesn't really sound the same, though.
Yeah,
291 sounds.
290. It's on air, online, on your smart device, so grab an app to listen anywhere or listen at home on a Grace Tabletop digital radio. If you missed it, Solaris' show was awesome, but I don't know who was on. It's always awesome, what can I say? And if you don't know who we talk about, jump into the chat room, get yourself hooked up to the archives for $5 a month. That's all it takes. That's a coffee, right? It's 12 coffees and you're done for a year worth. It's pretty good. I actually subscribe, even though the station owner says, Dave, you know what? You don't have to do that. You don't have to subscribe. You give us enough time as it is. More than $5 a month worth, let me tell you that. That's at least 10 hours or 12, depending on whether the month has 5 weekends or 4. But, still do it anyway. I support the station. We acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land. See how dynamic that is, Mecky? We learn and we change, we adapt. And in where I live, it's the Darkinjung people. That is us. And where Mecky lives, it's the Daruk people. Pause for Mecky. And we pay our respects to elders past, present, and future. Now, that should be ringing bells with you. That should be something that you're thinking to yourself. Hey, I wonder who the traditional custodians of the land were where I live. Wherever you live. It's your internal voice, not my voice. Maybe you should look that up. That'd be awesome. Did you know, Mecky, right before the show started, guess what? I get nothing.
Something happened.
Something happened, that's right. So my software that I use to record the show said, hey, do you want to do an update? And I foolishly, like a silly person with 2 minutes to go before the show starts, I said yes. Shouldn't have said yes. Doing that is bad. And it requires a full restart of my entire computer before that's going to work again. So let's keep our fingers crossed that Nighthawk is recording this at least in MP3 for me to be able to reconstitute an archive for this in YouTube. So, fingers crossed. No video today, though, sorry. And you know what? Right before it restarted, I just finished an hour's worth of putting a news cycle together with Elon Musk, batteries, Mars missions, volcanoes, you name it, even the measles outbreak that's currently happening. So, Mecky, you wouldn't happen to have any news on you, would you?
I got news. Look, there are a few things that happened this week. Interestingly enough, a place I just visited, Catalonia enough. They want to get independence, so it's curious to see what happens there. Another interesting thing is we're waiting for an eruption. In Mount Agung, you probably we did mention it last week, I thought, but this is a volcano that is poised to erupt in Indonesia, specifically in Bali. Lots of people have now been actually forced from their homes, not just evacuated, but actually forced from their homes. And this is going to be a big one, guys. Massive eruption, I would suspect. We also interestingly enough, in Austria this week, they banned the full face veil. Now, I have no issue with it because I always wondered. I mean, what's the point of an identity card, a passport, a driver's license if you can't see the person's face? I mean, there's no point really if you can only see the eyes, and in some instances, even the eyes are slightly veiled, with like a fine mesh. So, and look, before everybody starts hating me, it's not a Muslim practice to do this. This practice predates Islam by hundreds, if not thousands of years. There are many, many Muslims around the world that don't have a full face veil. Okay, so it is not a requirement of Islam to have that. It's a cultural requirement of some people to veil their women. Okay, nothing to do with Islam. Guess what? The ancient emperors in China and in fact everywhere, they did the same thing. They veiled their women, and you were not allowed to look upon them under pain of death. Okay, so that happened. In Australia, we have Muppets in power here, and even the ones that aren't in power, they're still Muppets. Tony Abbott, I don't know if you guys recall him. Dave, do you know what happened? It's
yeah.
He suggested.
Wait, can I say the words? Because I want to say
go on.
Those two words are going to ring bells with our audience. And that's all I can think of all week when he said it. Martial law. But do you know why the ex-Prime Minister wanted to call martial law? Mackie, can you tell us all?
Yeah, look, right now, the eastern seaboard in Australia is facing an energy crisis, meaning we may not be able to produce enough electricity to keep the lights on for everybody. In order to facilitate our energy efficiency and continued usage, we need gas. Now, what Abbott suggested is every state, which is now Queensland, I guess, and New South Wales and Victoria to some extent, if they do not, this because it's a state-run responsibility, the gas production or energy production in general, so it's not federal. Then if any state that doesn't do that, any state that doesn't comply and does its utmost to make sure that the lights stay on, should be occupied by the Australian Army. There should be.
I know. I fell off. I nearly fell off my chair when I read it earlier.
I mean, okay. No offense to anyone out there in the world, but this is just to put it in perspective. Now, I'm not a religious guy. Doesn't mean I disrespect religious people. Not at all. I think religion is a fine thing in moderation. But this is a guy who was the prime minister, and he said that Jesus told him to do things. So Jesus told him to do this, and Jesus told him to do that. Not occupying Australia, but other thing when he was prime minister. Look, take that any which way you want, but we don't have a Posse Comitatus Act. We don't have that. Meaning there's actually no regulation around deploying military or fully commissioned troops on Australian soil. I know you guys in America, you've got a lot of regulations around. In fact, you can't do that. You're not allowed to do it. That's why you've got the National Guard. In Australia, I think we can. We can deploy our army in the streets if we wanted to. I don't know why we wanted to. I mean, I don't know what the point would be. Would they force the politicians to shovel gas into our electricity stations, Dave? I don't know. What is the point of having the military occupy our states? But look, whatever. There's another thing in Australia that is interesting. This is the wrangling around dual citizenships. It seems a lot of our members of parliament, including sitting members of the government, are, unbeknownst to them, dual citizens by birth. I mean, some countries, if your parents are of a certain nationality, then you're just naturally that by birth. Like my father, for example. My father happens to be Turkish, therefore I am Turkish. No matter where I could be born on the moon, on Mars, completely irrelevant. I'm still Turkish, right? And even though I actually am Australian, right? Anyway, so similar situation for guys here, like New Zealanders, Canadians, British folk as well, others. and they didn't know that they had the second citizenship.
But I just want to mention,
guys.
Meki, I want to mention this, just so people understand. It is against the rules of our parliament, of our politics, that you are prohibited from applying to be a politician and run in the next election if you have a dual citizen or you're not a citizen of the country. That makes sense,
Correct.
right? Yes. So, that's what the rules say. That's what it's, and it's all based around that you might give favor to another country, or you might have, what's the word I'm looking for, Mackie? You might have a bias or even an agenda from another country to be able to favor them. That's the only way I can put it. An alliance or an allegiance to another country. Be that as it may, it might just be New Zealand, as in Barnaby Joyce's case, where he said he wasn't aware that he was New Zealand. He had New Zealand citizenship. However, because it's a rule, then you know what, it should be upheld. What I think is the funniest, and I'm going to give it back to you in a second, what I think is the funniest thing about this is one side said, go on, you know, test us because we'll be clean. They weren't. The other side is talking it up. That's really funny. You're all dual citizens. You know, you got to stand down. And then they go, well, what about your guys? Oh, we're clean. No, they weren't. And what is it? Right. There's 6 or 7 of them right now, you know, in total from both sides. From both sides of Parliament. Now, we're teetering on the edge of a lame duck prime minister.
Yes.
And if he was to lose another guy, that would just, another parliamentarian, that would be awful for their decision-making and approvals.
Correct. Yeah. For American and international listeners, a lame duck prime minister means he doesn't have to vote. So right now we are in a majority of 1 for the ruling coalition. if the coalition loses 1 seat, it is pretty much, it's even Stevens, right? And you have to ask, or you hope for people to cross the floor, meaning you have to hope for someone from the other side to vote for your stuff. So lame duck, meaning that the prime minister essentially can't push through any votes or legislations. That's what that means. And like Dave said, I mean, the only sensible thing at that point would be to have a by-election or just reshuffle. And actually, you have to have. I mean, I would say you probably have to have another election. I mean, it's untenable to have a government that doesn't work. Well, if you can't make a decision.
Think about the Venn diagram of our politics, right? In the middle, because they're both sort of center left and center right, but inside their party, they have extreme left, extreme right. Now, I'm not saying these are the same extreme lefts and extreme rights that you might find in the US, for instance, but they curve back on each other, as one of my esteemed friends notified me on, and agree on a bunch of things that you would so unexpect them to agree on. So on the Venn diagram, it sort of bends outwards and then curls back in on itself because of their extremist views actually join up. Now, if you at Meki, I know we've been talking a lot of politics for a long time, since we met. And one of those things was, when you get to the point where it's basically 49-51%, where, the people that are in are only by 1 seat, just making this up. Why try and do all your extremist stuff now? Why not just go, you know what? All the stuff that fits in the Venn diagram, why don't we just do that? All the things where we overlap. All the things we know the other side's going to get, agree on. And just push them through now. Let's just get them through. Let's get all of it through. Let's water down the stuff that we've currently got and push that through so that it gets approved. And once it's in, we can tinker. It's a thin edge of the wedge kind of discussion. But they don't. This is what gets me. As soon as they're, we're helpless. All of our, the drawer full of really good ideas that they've always had forever, which basically, if it's the right-hand side of our parliament, they want to privatise absolutely everything because they say they're useless. And they've blown the dust off these things and gone, oh, this would be a great idea. Let's make everyone work. Even if you work, if you're getting government handouts, you've got to work. Oh, but you can't take drugs. No, you can't have those. And we're going to give you an ATM card, for instance, Mickey, that you can only spend, instead of getting it put in your bank and you can take the cash out. Well, no, you're limited to where you can buy and what you can buy. Let's do those things, right? Because they never got through before. So let's do them now because, times are tough. Remember that emergency about the budget crisis where they got voted in for it? What happened to that? Now the spending's out of the roof,
What crisis? Oh, so you silly man. Silence.
The guy that said it's a budget crisis is now the diplomat in New York. Yes. They've shoved him aside, or you couldn't, it was a good ploy to get us elected, but, wasn't real. So just move you aside. Now this is the thing. What do they do? Meki, what was it? Was it only like a year ago where the Prime Minister said, oh, look, I'm sure we've got more favour in the people, and we're just going to call a double disillusionment, which means that they have to go for another election, hoping to change the number of seats in the House. And that backfired on them.
Yeah. Oh, like as I said, they were only up by 1 or 2 seats. Right now, they're holding the grand majority of one extra seat over the opposition. So the coalition, which is the Nationals and the Liberals in Australia, are in power, and the Labour Party, of course, is in opposition. So one seat. So every seat, you can see how this wrangling becomes important, Dave. Right? I mean, it's actually look. I don't believe the Westminster system works at all.
No, I think it's completely preposterous. It supports big business.
It is.
And the top end of town, yes. And the people are crushed into just obeying what happens. And this is the cycle.
Well, yeah, that's
you see it go around in a cycle where every once in a while, as a person, the people from the left, the people on the left tend a little bit towards the people and less against big business, and the other side is reversed. It's really the people are insignificant, and let's give more money to big business, and we don't care what they do. If you pollute, it doesn't matter. Don't worry about the pollution. Don't worry about treating minimum wage, whatever. Who cares? But the big business is the key to solving all the financial woes, and the left hand side in Australia is the key to financial woes in the government is by getting more people employed. That's right. Dealing with the people, not the big business. The big business will always be there, regardless of what happens. Meki.
No, look.
Sorry, I'm quite passionate about this.
No, really? No.
I know we both are.
It's an important thing. This whole political environment and how we act within it, how we're influenced by it, and how it shapes our lives. And in Australia, I have to say, we are somewhat disenfranchised. I'm not saying it's much better in the States, certainly not. Other countries have it better though than us. They certainly do. They do much better a job of keeping their politicians and the system at bay. Israel, actually, believe it or not, is not a bad system. Switzerland is pretty good. Germany has a good system, and there are others. Well, that's a good question. Dave asked me how far we from having a wrestling power. The smartest person on the planet will be a pro wrestler, like in the movie Idiocracy. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that. That was a funny movie. If you haven't seen it, watch it. There's another interesting thing that happened. Well, it didn't happen just this week, but there was a bit of a breakthrough this week around it, Dave. And this is around human embryos, and their DNA was edited to stop disease. So we're now at a point where we can edit. There are 4 letters really that make up DNA, but the point is we can now edit DNA content to. Now, obviously, that's a good thing. More and potentially sinister implications that come with this kind of technology. Obviously, the next generation will all be blonde and blue-eyed. Everybody on the planet is going to be and 7 foot tall. They're all going to be ace tennis players. Now, with
with bulging muscles too, Meki. The blonde-haired, blue-eyed, square-jawed. You forgot square-jawed. Bounding shoulders as wide as you can possibly imagine, and don't forget the four letters are A, C, G, and T, and they stand for adenine, cytosine, guanine, and thymine.
Correct.
Okay,
the building blocks of our.
They certainly are. And remember, they built an artificial life form with 5 letters.
Yes. That's right. Again, there's really no end to how many letters you could use. I mean, how many acids or protein chains you can build and so forth. Ours just happens to be 4.
What about the vending machine of life, Meki, where you put your money in, right? Or it's just tap and go now, or you present your barcode on your wrist, because they're not far from that, right? I think the barcode thing would be bad. It would probably just be an implant, right? So you bleep on the implant, or it just knows who you are. Recognizes you from whoever you are in the government records, right? So you walk up to the machine and it either vends you an option. So you go, oh, I want a child, and you just make it like an identikit, or you don't get a choice. It just tells you which child you're having.
That's right.
Imagine if the government take it all the way. Let's trend it to the end. They just tell who's going to have a baby and what it's going to be and what it's going to look like, because that's what they need in society, whichever one it is. Imagine that.
Yeah, and look, but the problem here is long-term effects, because there are billions literally of pairs of DNA or of instructions you can edit, billions. And the problem is that we know what we can do in certain, we edit this, we edit that, and this disease goes away. What we don't know, excuse me, is the knock-on effect. So if we do this, let's say we make this genetic change, maybe even a couple of them, and it is like a disease goes away. That's awesome. That's fantastic. So that person is disease-free. But in the process, what else did we do? I mean, can we say with certainty that we're only editing those genes that we want to edit, or did we maybe do something else? This is where it gets really difficult, because I don't think we are advanced enough quite yet, at least officially, to do this without any risks. So there are risks here, guys, and like said, I mean, we just don't know. Hey, I'm just spitballing here, but let's say we do this, on a regular basis, gene editing, and kids to live healthy lives and all that wonderful stuff. That's awesome. That's really, really great. You're right, Dave. It is like kids playing with matches. But let's say, for some reason, we switch on this other sequence of genes in a combination that renders us all sterile. So no more children are being born, and because we've just changed our DNA, within 2 or 3 generations, we would have wiped ourselves out. Is that a possibility? Well, yes. Is it far-fetched? Of course, it's far-fetched.
I think it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. I think that's what's going to happen.
Well, look,
I think people would come back in time to take our DNA when it was unchanged, before we screwed it up.
That's there are actually a few stories that were written about that as well. To get to it, like sci-fi stories to sample pure human DNA before people had started playing around with it, and that's really the danger. Okay, so yes, we're all, and in fact, but having said that, Dave, look, who's to say that we haven't already, or our genes haven't already been tampered with? Again.
Oh, artificial colors and flavors, and then maybe an intentional one.
Well, look, that's it. again, which brings us to, in a roundabout way, to today's topic, which we're finishing off the human timelines, and it's one of those really forced segues, but I'm going to take it anyway, where you have the evolution, or what we think is the evolution of the human species within a certain time frame, and as we've learned over the last few weeks, that time frame is changing, it's altering, it's some of the parameters are changing. There's new things we're learning every day. The massive changes we haven't accepted yet, right? The timelines that would have pushed it back tens or even hundreds of millions of years, that they're not quite palatable yet. But we have accepted timelines that push it back by hundreds of thousands or tens of thousands of years in certain areas. We're okay with that. So we're okay with the small changes. We are really not okay with the big changes that are potentially coming our way when it comes to the evolution of the human species. In fact, we said this last week. There was a news report around this external embryo that could be grown in your living room.
Oh, that's right. Yes, I remember that one.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And again, we made the link last week to the flood myths, some of which spoke of human beings growing on trees as a description, and also various flood myths and telling us that in fact the old human race, or the old inhabitants of planet Earth, were all killed, and after the flood there was a new humanity, a new human race. And as we also pointed out to you guys, it seems that those pre- or antediluvian, pre-flood people lived a lot longer, for one. We're a lot shorter lived, which brings me back again to telomeres and telomerase. So telomeres, the sort of the end of your DNA strains, and telomerase, the enzyme that protects them. And on and on. So the only reason we all die, unless you get hit by a truck, the only reason you die is because your cell division, your cell replication, which is how we grow really, becomes less and less accurate over time, like taking a photocopy of a photocopy of a photocopy and so on. Right now, if telomerase, the enzyme, were active in your body, if it were active, it would protect your telomeres, and they would of the cell until in fact they're so short that they're gone, and then now the actual genetic material that makes up you is affected. Now imagine that. Imagine telomerase was switched on, coating your telomeres, and again, barring any accidents, falling down the stairs or whatever, you would not age. Okay, you would not age. If you get exposed to radiation, if you smoke every day, if you drink every day, if you abuse drugs, you will die. Your body will wear out. That's going to happen. Okay, there's nothing you can do about that. But if you look after yourself, if you've got a healthy life, okay, and you don't abuse your body in that fashion, then the telomerase that is protecting your telomeres could really massively expand your life by hundreds and maybe even thousands of years. I know fast that sounds crazy, like that. I mean, come on, Dave. I mean, the truth is, that sounds like science fiction. No, it's not. And you know what else, Dave? A stellar civilization, a civilization that has not mastered faster than light travel. But even if we do manage wormhole technology, just looking at the vast distance and so forth, time dilation, all that other stuff, we would still need to be a lot longer lived than we are to function as a space civilization. Do you know what I mean? Like, we're too short lived to be effective in that.
Yeah, are you gapping for comment here?
Yeah, I am gapping for comment.
Thank you. Yeah, look, you're absolutely, you are right, and I think because this is an extension of the telomeres and longevity, which we've all already spoken about. I think we're going to have to do something about that. I think the 2009 Nobel Prize for Medicine discovery is the most important one since we've been human. And that is telomeres and the discovery that they come on while we're growing up. They subside a little, come on again until they're about 25 or so, and then they turn back off again. That's it. That's all we get. Couple of spurts, couple of squirts and telomerase, and that's it. Well, if it continued, yes, we'd live forever. And I think the clue is that our DNA was changed. I think the clue here is that the Sumerians were right, that there is an interventionist form of management of humans in some way, and that the examples given by even the Egyptian pharaohs of ruling 700 years, and the biblical terms, and longer. 700 years. Mackie, I was thinking about this the other day, and if you're a pet, say a fish, yeah? You're a fish, you're just a couple of weeks old or whatever, and you're in a pet store, someone takes you home, puts you in their tank. It's a reasonably good existence. I've got everything I need. I've got light. Yeah, I don't just live in the dark. I've got food. My water is a comfortable temperature. I get some stuff to watch every once in a while. People move around. But wow, I've aged. I've gone through my whole life cycle. And these people that I'm friends with, maybe if it's not a fish, maybe it's an iguana, maybe it's, and I don't want to say a parrot or a cockatoo because they live longer than humans. But if it was, say, a puppy or a kitten, oh my goodness, right? So through their entire life from start to finish, we don't even age. Mm-hmm. We don't age in comparison to them.
Yep.
That's crazy.
That's right.
The mayfly, which is your brilliant example, Mackie, of it only living a day. A day. In comparison, we've got to think the same way about, well, we could live for 700 years. In fact, we could live indefinitely if our telomeres, if we avoided cancer and getting killed, falling off something, have some hapless accident. But if you could stay bundled up in cotton wool, live your life without direct contact with others, and not go insane, there's a whole nother feature episode, well, you could live forever as long as you didn't haplessly die.
That is correct.
So spacefaring, Mackie, is the best opportunity for us, I think.
Look, it's correct. That's exactly right. In fact, if we were spacefaring, we would not have an overpopulation problem at that point, right? Because it would be a long, long time before we fill up the galaxy, or all the galaxies for that matter. But see, this is the thing. There are other avenues that are going to be open to us very, very soon. People are working on neural networks, meaning artificial brains that could be used potentially to download human consciousness.
Oh yes,
and then live in a completely bionic body, meaning a body that is mostly made up of, robotic parts, some biological components. I would imagine maybe the brain certainly being an organ that would want to remain somewhat biological because of simply of the complexity. In fact, there was an article last week in I want to say Scientific American, but I can't recall, around the brain and its higher dimensional states. Believe it or not, the brain. There's some experiments that were undertaken. How our neurons actually connect. The synapses and so forth. There's like each neuron has five synapses, meaning it connects to 5 other cells and so on and so forth. It's a very complex network. Now it appears some experiments around that showed that our brain operates in up to 11 dimensions.
That's right.
Okay? Now that's quite astounding if you think about it. So that means our brain is in fact in a quantum state. Okay, so our brain, we've discussed this before, but now there's some experimental or even the dreaded scientific method, right? Some empirical data that seems to suggest that our brain operates in higher dimensions than the ones that are immediately accessible to us, which is got all kinds of implications for data storage, higher processing and things like that. 23 is the page, my friend. And
Thank you.
I do apologize. I can't get, for some reason, again, I can't get into the chat room. I did restart my machine. It's just sitting there. It's just super slow. So I do apologize. I'm not in the chat room, guys. If you wanted to chat, I'm sure Dave, you made it into the chat room, I imagine.
I'm going to say yes, although I'm not in there. I'm logging in now.
Oh, okay, that's cool. So I'm sorry, guys, I'm not in there. And having said that, I'd like to welcome everybody in the chat room, everybody listening to Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, everybody, in fact, subscribers on our YouTube channel. We're getting new subscribers every week. So thank you very much for subscribing to our channel on YouTube. Hopefully you find the content interesting. And it's hard to look. We've had a lot of comments around a certain number of things. One of them being synopsis, or having a synopsis for our shows. There's only Dave and I. That's it. There's no staff. There's no intern. There are no graduates helping us. It's just Dave and I. And this is not our job. We do this for fun and as a passion. And thank you very much to Nighthawk for having us on here. Which brings me to another thing. Donate if you can. Donate. This is Listener Funded Radio, guys. Right now, I've never actually seen this, Dave. I'm looking in the chat, and what I'm trying to get in the chat, on the left-hand side, there's how much money was raised, and there's a goal. It's actually at minus. It's a minus figure. So I don't know how that's possible, but we're at a minus dollar figure for money raised. If someone, I don't know, doesn't mean someone ripped us off. I have no idea. But essentially, if you can donate even $5, that would be extremely helpful. Even $1, or as Dave always says, just subscribe to the archives. That costs $5, and you get access to all the shows. I mean, we are at a very terrible time for you guys in the States. It's early. Sunday morning, I guess, right? Where you are, Saturday night, early Sunday morning. So that's just a little about the station. It's completely listener funded, no corporate interests at all. Dave, now we are talking about human timelines. Unless you wanted to raise some more current affairs.
Only really quickly, and this was the Elon Musk story. So I've watched his recent stage presentation about his BFR. I'll let you think about what the F stands for. It's to do with a big rocket. And it could be Big Falcon rocket because it's based on the smaller Falcon rockets, but it could be another word. That it's cheaper to run than their small rocket. It's cheaper to run almost as a 747 for that matter. Extraordinary that you should be able to do that. And then he's talking about, colonies on Mars and the moon and Moonbase Alpha and all of this stuff that we grew up when we were kids, which is tremendous. However, the segue that I wanted to take this in a different direction, and that is when in January, Mackie, South Australia had its storms, I think it was January, that during the storm, it was the perfect storm. They had maintenance going on their interconnectivity between states in South Australia. It's a state of Australia. It's rather big, like Texas. And during that maintenance, they had a storm that went through that wiped out pretty much a whole bunch of those huge towers, the electrical towers. And
that's right.
It failed there because of the wind and the solar weren't able to power, the people. What Elon Musk offered, he said, because the government says we need more coal for some reason. Elon Musk said, actually you don't need that. You can just have some batteries. So we can put some batteries in there, and your solar and wind can power those because, you know, they can run round the clock. Let the wind, and you can just draw off that. Now, that was 100 days he promised that he can put it in or it's free. 100 days or it's free. And it was going to cost something like 50 million. That's not much. It's like not 50 billion. Just 50 million's nothing. It's very, very small amount of money. And guess what? All your power woes go away. Well, anyway, 3 days ago, it was approved. Took 6 months to talk, 9 months to talk about it in Parliament for them to approve it. Now it's going to go ahead. Yay! He said, I'm really impressed with how South Australia has embraced renewables. You know, his rocket, Mackie, what he wants to do, he'd love to be able to make an electrical rocket. Because it'd be like renewable rather than burning methane and oxygen, because that's the fuel source he's using. Extraordinary stuff. Now, we're still being told that we don't have enough gas. There's not enough gas for us to run all of our, and looking forward, even up to 2022, there's not enough. We're going to have to build more coal-fired power stations. What? Mm-hmm. Or we can legislate that the gas producers, and we're talking about fracking here as well, not just natural gas reserves where there's just a big bubble underground full of natural gas, that they will, because they're sucking it out of the ground and selling it to foreign markets and not providing it to us at cost or a little above. So the government's threatened them with legislation. They go, oh, we'll have enough. Don't worry about it. It'll be fine. Don't legislate. Whatever you do, don't legislate. It's like the example of the company that makes Nike shoes. Doesn't cost Nike a cent. They make them for free, and they're able to sell the remainder of the shoes that they make for their profit, and to pay for all the rubber and all the materials and all the labor costs. So that's an old story. It's an oldie but a goodie. So that's what they're trying to do, and you know, strangle the gas companies for this. And AGL, Australian Gas Limited, one of the things that they said, oh, look, we've got a coal-fired plant that we want to shut down because, you know, it's been running for I don't know how many years, 50 years or something. It's so old, it's going to fall apart. And the government's so afraid of doing this, they've just gone, look, maybe we can buy it and keep running it. And they go, well, you know, it's going to be so expensive you couldn't do it anyway. And if we were to upgrade, it costs billions and we'll never get our money back from it. So it's not financial. We just can't touch it. Can't touch it.
Yeah.
Now, can't touch this. And that's what's really funny. It's the government sold off all its power generation assets because it hadn't put a program in to maintain them for any length of time. They would just go, wow, this stuff's so profitable, Mackie. My goodness. You know, we built that thing 50 years ago, paid for itself in a couple of years. It's just profit, pure profit coming off this stuff. Awesome. Can we build some more of them? Oh, yeah, they're popular at the moment. And right now they're talking about alternatives like, oh, let's go with, I don't know, nuclear. Let's do that. Oh, but sir, it's not popular. Who cares? Let's do that. Let's build some of those. Right? But sir, that'll take 15 years to get a plant up and running. Is that too late? Is it? Yeah, but did you read the brief? It said 5 years we won't have any power. Actually, next year we're not going to have enough power. And this is where the big problem is. No one had any foresight, and the government only is clearly, it appears to me, in my opinion, to be pandering purely to big coal. That's it. Just panders to them. Whatever they want, they get. Oh, and they keep them running. What's this threat about renewables? You listen to the big coal people and they say, oh, no, there's no future in renewables. It's always coal. See, coal's the answer. Why is it the answer?
That's right.
Clean coal. Clean problem. Clean coal. There's no such thing as clean coal. There's 3%, improvements in technology today than there was 50 years ago. 3%. Wow. That's going to get us to when? How are we going to keep on target with our renewable target? Oh, no, we'll just abolish it. Let's abolish the new renewable target.
That's future Mackey's problem, dude.
Future Mackey's problem. I love that.
Dude.
I know, right? So this is what they've done. This is what our current government has done. And they've actually they've relied on South Australia's renewable policy to keep in line with the actual promises that they've made. And yet the government, the federal government, bags them out on it all the time. Well, this Elon Musk thing is going to change all of that.
Yes, that's correct.
Let's make this the big success thing, and everyone has to do it. Sorry, Mackie, you go.
No, Dave, you're right, and I want it to be as well. I mean, already a lot of people that I know have purchased the Tesla batteries for their house, together with some solar systems. Right now, I can't afford it right now. I'll be honest with you, it costs $25,000, a lot of money to put in. Well, it is, right. It's quite a bit of cash. Now, but having said that, Dave is right, because the corruption that we experience here in Australia around all of this, and who in fact lives in whose pocket, and it's clear who lives in the pockets of the large energy concerns, not just coal, but gas, oil, all that, right? It's our leadership. Our senior leadership is completely compromised. This thing that Elon Musk is offering up can be yeah, that's right. Can be a way out of it. Sorry, Dave just messaged me. Our government is like a howdy doody puppet. Howdy doody. Yes, that's very true. Now, in fact, it's like those ventriloquists.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder whose arm is up my butt. says the politician in charge. Oh, good, that feels all right. Oh yeah, now I know what to do. No, I have no respect left for these people, because they only. And in fact, you know what? This is what I've learned, Dave. We only have a few minutes before the break, but I've learned one important thing over the last few years, being in the corporate world. Everybody is out to line their own pocket.
Oh yeah,
everybody.
Mm-hmm.
They're the people that actually care and want to do the right thing are so few and far between. It's almost irrelevant, right? Everybody that makes it to a certain level is there for themselves, not for the greater good, not for their teams, not for the country, not for the region, not for their race, sometimes not even for their family. They're in it for themselves. And that's a realization, I'll be honest with you, that took me aback. I of course, I'm not naive. I know how the world works. But I always believed that, generally speaking, people would do the right thing, because it's just easier to do the right thing. And so it just seems like a natural way to do things. It is not. It is not. What you will encounter in the world is complete selfishness and greed from the vast majority of people that you think are in charge.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? That's who they are. Male, female, doesn't matter if they're black or white or yellow or green or purple, completely irrelevant. Greed and selfishness rule us to such an extent. Honestly, I'll be honest with you, Dave, I was blown away of what I've seen over the last few years. I couldn't believe it. I could not believe it. And still, I find it hard to accept what I know to be true. But you have to. You have to. And what you do at that point, you realize, okay, well, if that's the world, let me do that as well then. All right. But in my case, I've taken the attitude, you know what? I will see who I can help in my circle, in my network of people. Because that's the only thing that works out there in the world. Whenever you see politicians, CEOs, leaders of any sort come through, they bring a bunch of people with them. These are the people they trust. These are the people that they think can work for them or with them, right? It happens every single time something changes. be it in politics or in business. I have never ever seen a senior person come through without bringing a whole raft of people with them. Anyway, with that philosophical thought, I'll leave you. We'll come back with the human timeline after the break, guys.
Yeah, we sure will. Take time now to donate.
The opinions expressed on this radio station, its programs, and its website by the hosts, guests, and call-in listeners or chatters are solely the opinions of the original source who expressed them. They do not necessarily represent the opinions of Revolution Radio and FreedomSlips.com, its staff, or affiliates. You're listening to Revolution Radio, FreedomSlips.com, 100% listener-supported radio, and now we return you to your host.
Get yourself some great merchandise from the station's website. Buy a CD of your favorite host shows for a previous season, maybe an EMP-proof thumb drive with survival documents, or 75,000 seeds in a packet. Awesome. That'll get you going after the apocalypse, or when the S hits the F. Follow instructions carefully when donating to avoid disappointment. If you're in the US of A, you can call in on 347-688-2902. Or if you have Skype running on any of your smart devices, you can add a contact called Freedom Screen. Freedom Screen with an N at the end. If you live in Kentucky, you can listen on FM WZZR 101.3 or anywhere else, and I do mean anywhere else in the universe with the Earth's internet. You can do that through a web page or an app. There's a couple of those. Use your favorite search engine to look for Revolution Radio Studio A, and voila. If you like Studio B, make a B at the end. And you'll find, when I did that search, I found TuneIn.com, Web Radio Central, Receiver mobile app. Freedom Slips has their own app. Go to the webpage for that one, freedomslips.com. TalkStream Live, streamfinder.com, internet-radio.com, Radio Tuner, Radio Waves, radioonline.co, and we've got our own app. You can also listen to the station with that app, but just look for Shiny Side Out, 3 words, in your favorite app store, not Windows or if, what's the other one? Oh boy, I used to have one. BlackBerry. I don't think BlackBerry have it, and Windows certainly is no longer supported, so good luck with that.
BlackBerry.
I remember BlackBerry. 290 is this episode number, and we're continuing the human timelines topic arc.
Correct. And in fact, we're concluding it today. There's probably more.
Crowd goes wild.
And we'll update you guys as we find out. Right? Now, okay, so this once it was written June 8, 2000. We took that from Mashable, but it's a scientific article. Mari Gallucci, but it says here is Morocco fossils push back the timeline on human origins. Not quite as far as we would like to push it, but certainly quite a bit further. Fossilized remains found in Morocco might belong to our 300,000-year-old ancestors. The skulls and bones could represent the earliest known fossils of Homo sapiens, the human species to which we all belong. Well, most of us, maybe. Scientists said in 2 new studies published, last Wednesday, which was... If true, the findings would mean that our species originated at least 100,000 years earlier than previously thought. Like, remember what we said earlier? We push back the origin of ourselves back by tens or even hundreds of thousands of years, but we simply be allergic to do that with millions of years. Fuzzy understanding of...
Oh,
now let's just dwell for a second on this phrase here. The results could also bring more clarity to our still fuzzy
understanding. So let's be clear here. One, we don't actually know, right, at all. It's still fuzzy means we just have no clue, right? Number one. Number two, not quite clear yet, I think, if in fact humans did evolve in Africa exclusively. There may very well be a good case, and Dave can chime in at any moment, for the human sprung up simultaneously on several places on the globe. Australia, Asia, Africa. Now, we seem to be pretty certain that humans do not seem to have originated, in South or in the Americas. Having said that, what about Antarctica? Is it not possible then that Antarctica is in fact the cradle of humanity? Well, that's crazy talk. I get that. What do you think, Dave? I mean, there's a lot of evidence for even out of Australia, right?
Yeah, there is. The out of Australia is seeming more and more plausible, or even the first place that after humans were, just maybe in Iraq. I'm just going Nibiru for a minute. Sorry, Nibiru. The Sumerians. Yeah. The Sumerian tale is the oldest written record we have. But, that doesn't mean it's the oldest one that exists. It's the other one we've found, oldest. Meki, I love this Antarctica reference because that's completely possible. We haven't, gone beneath the ice yet, and we know that, say, for instance, England, the White Cliffs of Dover are actually coral. It's millions of years of coral deposits, meaning it was tropical at some point. Now, wherever it was when it was tropical, if you mash all the things together, you end up with Gondwana land, which is all of the continents currently visible as one big mash-up continent. Maybe that's what the continent was before.
Yeah.
Oh, what's its name? Tiamat collided with the, proto-Earth or the early Earth, or maybe there was life on it then. But, if Antarctica, maybe the discovery of that, since we know that it had thawed out at one point, there was a map. The map exists showing Antarctica without ice. So maybe maybe we've had a pole shift, or that the Earth had tipped or something, and it was.
Look, this is really the kicker. Yeah.
Yeah. So if that's going to become an influence to be able to then reevaluate our position on evolution or the transmission of humans around the planet, because it seems evident to me that pre-flood, that we were all in contact, the same masonry, like the same stonework is available all around the planet, the same level of megalithic structures, the same style of stone building, because it wasn't like one group of people decided to build stone walls one way and another decided to do it their way, because that's just better. No, they were all the same. They built them the same with imaginably large stones in a way that we don't do that today. So they clearly had a way of communicating this technology amongst themselves. Maybe it was because there was a hovering species of aliens looking after us. It's possible. Maybe they lived in Pumapunku, Meki. Maybe that's where their headquarters were.
Maybe.
Maybe it's in Antarctica. Maybe there's bases down there older than we can possibly imagine. This is where I like to, I want us to dream of these things being real, because if we don't and we see evidence, we'll dismiss it. Because there's a pile of dismissed evidence bigger than the pile of accepted evidence of human origins. Now, that doesn't make any sense to me. It really doesn't. So, what's this, Meki, the 7 million year old teeth?
We're going to read after this. So there's another article after this, which is fascinating stuff, right? So bear with us for this article. So until now, the earliest fossil.
Hey, Mackie, I'm just going to drop you from the call and bring you back in again, okay? Because your audio's going bad. We're gonna fix this up. Bear with me. You know, we're working with technology, and Mackie should be able to call. I might be able to call him back in. Mackie, are you with us again? Let's see. Are you with us again, Mackie?
There we are. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, it's better. Awesome.
Hello. Okay, great. Okay, sorry. We're just going back to the article. It's not very long. It's not a couple of another page or so. So until now, I don't know if you can hear me. Until now, the earliest fossil attributed to a modern form of Homo sapiens was about 195,000 years old and came from Ethiopia. Many anthropologists believe that all living humans descended from a population living in Africa around that time, and that our modern human biology appeared relative. The first almost complete adult mandible discovered at the site of Jebel Irhoud in Morocco changed that. Now, Jean-Jacques Hublin, a professor at Germany's Max Planck Institute for Evolutionary Anthropology, who led the research in Morocco, said results challenge this picture in many ways. This team found the fossilized remains, which is the mandible, along with stone tools and animal bones at the Jebel Irhoud archaeological cave site, which lies 62 miles west of Marrakesh. The site was discovered, and it wasn't until 2004 that researchers began to properly clean all that was left behind. Pause. Well, sorry, 1 second, and then Dave, please take the rest of it. But please, it was discovered by miners. Again, we are digging in places here, there, and everywhere, and what we find is mostly
Mackie's.
That was discovered by Moroccan miners.
Mackie's audio is yeah. I can hear you, but it's muffled.
Can you hear me? Audio?
It's muffled and delayed.
Okay.
So, it seems like a traffic issue. I've checked my traffic on my end, and I can't see it being affected by anything that's happening locally here.
Traffic. Yeah. There's no traffic here. I mean, if anything, it has to do with maybe my environment here, like the exchange. Because I have nobody in the house. I'm by myself.
Yeah, no, I get that.
Can you hear me better now? Or
yes, it's come good again.
Okay, good. Let's hope that it stays that way. No, sorry. My point is that we are finding these things completely by chance, right? And it's miners. So this particular site was discovered almost 60 years ago by Moroccan miners. 60 years ago, and it wasn't until 2004, some almost 50 years later, that scientists actually went there to properly clean and excavate all that was left behind. Now, on top of that, please do realize that I think, and Dave probably is in the same boat here, there are sites that we never hear about. Number one, because they're completely destroyed by the miners themselves, because it's just, there's no percentages in any of this for the miners. Secondly, other large research institutions like the Smithsonian might just jump in and carry the controversial stuff away. But just again, I want researchers, I think that's where we're at.
So, Mackie, am I beginning with Chris?
Two researchers.
All right, okay, fantastic. Thank you, Mackie. I'll take you to the end of this one. 2 researchers not involved in the new studies said they agreed that Jebel Irhoud fossils now represent the best dated evidence of an early pre-modern phase in human or Homo sapien evolution. Chris Stringer and Julie Galway-Witham, both of the Natural History Museum in London, said the specimens probably constitute an early representative of the Homo sapiens lineage that could illuminate the evolution of our species, they wrote in an accompanying article in Nature publication. But Eric Trinkhaus, an anthropology professor at Washington University in St. Louis, disputed the study's claim that the fossilized remains were of modern humans. It's quoted as saying, "They are playing games with what Homo sapiens means." He said in an email, "The fossils are of archaic humans and apparently part of the several 100,000-year transition from earlier, more archaic humans to real early human ones. The Morocco remains together represent at least 5 individuals, including 3 adults, 1 adolescent, and an 8-year-old child." See, that's pretty accurate. "Stone tools from the site appear to date to the early mid-Stone Age, an ancient cultural stage in the north, east, and south of Africa that began around 280,000 years ago. At the site, fragments of burnt flint pardon me, suggest that humans used fire intensely there. Researchers used 2 techniques to determine the site's age: thermoluminescence dating, which involves measuring the accumulated dose of radiation in minerals, and electron spin resonance dating, which measures the number of trapped electrons that have accumulated since the object was buried. The team concluded the site was around 300 to 350,000 years old. These dates were big. Wow, Kubelin recalled. That was much older than anything else in Africa we could relate to our species. The age of the site and the fact that it's across the African continent from Ethiopia indicate that Homo sapiens were more widely dispersed throughout Africa than previously understood, according to the new research. The fossils also suggest that our species evolved more gradually than we thought. Early Homo sapiens appeared to have had a combination of advanced features, including the face of modern humans, and archaic conditions, such as more ancient forms of endocraniums and brains, which suggest our species' face developed before the skull. Richard Klein, an anthropology professor at Stanford, who provided feedback on the studies before publication, said the face before skull was a reasonable idea. But he said additional fossil specimens were needed to either support or disprove the pattern. These were pretty people in those days. That's my quote. It's just a hypothesis, he said in a phone interview, adding that the new research was still important to the one of human evolution. Hublin, this is the last phrase, Hublin noted the studies don't claim to say that Morocco became the cradle of humankind or modern humankind. Instead, the research points to a pan-African emergence of our species, he said. Mackie, how's that audio of yours going?
Look, I don't know. You tell me. But that's amazing.
It's much better.
Think about it. Okay, good. Look, again, it is about pushing back the timeline. And here we have, and again, you know, we don't really think it's the modern humans. But it has just pushed, potentially, the origin of our particular species 100,000 years back into the past. 100,000 years, okay? So that's a lot of time. In fact, I still consider Homo sapiens was coexist for all of their existence. I think that our species and variations thereof is a lot older than we give it credit for. And again, you know, people say, oh, what about evolution, blah, blah, blah. And once again, before we go to the next article, I will say one more time, a shark is a shark is a shark, a crocodile is a crocodile is a crocodile, and both of these particular species are hundreds of millions of years old. They have changed in size. Yes. So they were massive, large, and, you know, a bit smaller, but they're still crocodiles and they're still sharks. If you have reached a certain optimum, I guess, physical shape, if you will, why change any further? It is clear that evolution
that's the fundamental premise of the theory. And the only thing that drives change in a species is mostly outside pressure. I mean, why break something? Sorry, why fix something that isn't broken? You wouldn't. I mean, and nature doesn't seem to work that way either, right? I mean, we've got a whole bunch of blueprints in our DNA for almost, I think, for every potentiality, for every eventuality. We can certainly assume that we have, the blueprints for everything that could nature could throw at us in the future. Now, which also brings us then to DNA itself, which we'll have a show about, but not right now. So the point is, if a species, then why would it develop any further? I mean, again, the coelacanth, the fish that last appeared in the fossil record 65 million years ago, is still the same as it was then. Has million years, unchanged. Wow. Hello, evolution. What happened? It wasn't necessary for the fish to change any further. But not only that, it's a primitive fish. It shouldn't coexist with modern fish, but there it is. There it is. Okay. In our mind, it seems to be very neat. Things come along, they evolve, they go extinct. They come along, they evolve, they go extinct. And no, because not everything goes extinct. We have the Cambrian explosion, for example, and the flowering mystery. We still can't explain why plants have flowers, for crying out loud. Why? They got along just fine without flowers for hundreds of millions of years, and all of a sudden they got flowers. Most people don't understand the complexity of the symbiosis it takes between insect, and for that matter, and the plant, and the flowering plant. It takes, I mean, you take the insects, in fact, you take the bees away today, you take most of the food species for the human beings would disappear, right? So dependent have to become on bees for pollination and plants in general. How did that happen? I mean, if plants got along just fine without flowers and without insects, why change? Why? Oh, okay, I'm getting slightly off track, but the point here is there are many, many, many mysteries that we simply cannot answer. And because we can't answer them, people don't talk about it. And if you don't talk about it, then people don't know about it, right? You now know to speak to in school, even if you're in school, university. Explain to me the mystery of the flowering. Explain to me the Cambrian explosion, right? And explain to me the extinction events that came along every so often as well. So these are mysteries we don't know about. Well, the next article this year, 2017, by the same lady. I think I will put a cable in from now on. In May 24, 2017, Dave, interrupt when my audio gets too bad.
Oh, it's already. I'll just kick this off and I'll give you like a couple of paragraphs, okay. and then we'll go back to you. Ancient tooth fossils found in Europe may represent a new chapter in human history. In the origin story, the fossils, which date back more than 7 million years, belong to an ape-like creature named. Oh, Mekki, you take this one.
Grycopithecus freybergi.
Oh, he's awesome at the pronunciation. Researchers hypothesize in 2 new papers. A lower jawbone and an upper premolar were found in Greece and Bulgaria retrospectively. Oh, sorry, not retrospectively, respectively. So in Greece, they found a jawbone, and in Bulgaria, they found an upper premolar. That's it. The findings suggest that humans split off from great apes several 100,000 years earlier than previously thought. According to research published this week, which was back in May 24th, 2017, in the journal PLOS 1, PLOS 1, it says, if true, that would mean the first pre-humans developed in Mediterranean Europe, not in sub-Saharan Africa, which is widely considered the birthplace of early humans. Mediterranean Europe. Wow. And the story that they're referring to is humans may have lived in the Americas 130,000 years ago, far earlier than thought as well. Mackie, let's start you on still the studies.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, that's the last article we're going to share with you around the Americas, having humans in there for 130,000 years. And still, the studies alone aren't enough to rewrite the story of humankind's beginnings. Outside experts say they are deeply skeptical of the research. They argue the evidence is still too thin, up a decade's worth of fossil and genetics. They're too lazy, don't want to rewrite any. Of caution, Darren Kerno, an associate professor at the University of New South Wales, Sydney, wrote in an opinion piece for the company that early humans did this for.
Oh, Mackie, it's terrible. I'm gonna drop you. I'm gonna drop you again and pull you back in. I'm so sorry. Apologies to everyone. This just seems to be what we're facing today. Who knew? All right, so I'm going to remove him from the call and then add him back again. And let's see how this one goes. Invite him back to the group call. Wow, it says he's busy. I think Skype is so misbehaving these, at least in the last week for me. Mackie, you're back again. How's your audio this time?
Beautiful. I don't know. You tell me. Is it good?
All right.
Better?
Yeah, it's better.
Okay.
Let's go.
Now, what? Okay, so I don't know if you hear this, but this is what Darren Kerno said. I'm open to the idea that early humans lived beyond Africa, but Grecopithecus falls well short of proving it. He said. Now, he's again. I find it astounding that people have this much hubris, self-confidence. He is open to the idea. That's nice. I don't care what he's open to, right? I'm only interested in facts. Give me facts. What are the facts? What does the evidence show me? I don't care what he thinks, or if it is, in his expert opinion, if that's at all possible. I don't give a hoot. It really upsets me when somebody just postulates, I'm open to the idea. I don't. It leads me. That's all I care about. Anyway, many researchers assume that human and ape lineages diverged some 5 to 7 million years ago. Now, that's what we believe at this point. Charles Darwin initially surmised that humans evolved in Africa because that's the home of humans' closest ape relatives, chimpanzees and gorillas. What about orangutans, right? And so forth. Anyway, the oldest potential pre-human, a 6 to 7 million year old named Sahelanthropus, obviously from the Sahel Desert, was found and present. Cool.
That was in Chad.
According to an international team of researchers. The Bulgarian premolar dates back some 7.24 million years ago, and the Greek jaw fossil dates back 7.175. The teams were led by Madeleine Böhme from the Senckenberg Center for Human Evolution and Paleoenvironment in Germany, and Nikolai Spasov from the Bulgarian Academy of Sciences. Dave?
Researchers used computer tomography to take cross-sections of the two fossils. They found the roots of premolars were widely fused, a feature that is characteristic of modern humans, early humans, and several pre-human ancestors. Great apes, by contrast, have 2 or 3 separate and diverging premolar roots. The lower jaw fossil also had additional dental root features that suggested its owner belonged to the pre-human lineage. We were surprised by our results, as pre-humans were previously known only from sub-Saharan Africa, Jochen Fuss said, a doctoral student at the University of Tübingen in Germany, and I've mispronounced that, don't you worry about that, who conducted this part of the study, said in a press release. But Kerno, the skeptical professor studying just one feature, dental roots, on a small number of fossils wasn't enough to prove El Greco was on Team Human, not Team Ape. That's why Meki had that point of view earlier, because it's his opinion, and he's only looking at one thing, which is what they will tend to do to dismiss it. While our place in the tree of life is now well established, chimpanzees being our closest relatives, the beginning of the human line millions of years ago, continues to be shrouded in mystery, he noted. Yeah, he's just saying, you know what, it doesn't agree with what I agree with, so let's just point back at the chimpanzees. No, none of these, right? None of these people are willing to even discuss the chromosome issue. None.
Exactly.
They won't touch it. They don't want to reveal, or are refused, to reveal that there was some kind of intervention in our DNA to change us from them to us. They still refuse, and that drives me spare. You know what, Meki? It could possibly, 7 million years ago, that could possibly still have, at the time, dinosaurs. They may not have all been wiped out. And, Angkor Wat, in fact, the Stegosaurus, humans cohabitating. All we found was a tooth and a jawbone.
Yeah, I know, exactly. Now, just to be clear on the dinosaurs, in Central Africa, in the Congo, in fact, there is the legend, not legend, but the locals talk about a creature called the Mokele Mbembe, and for all intents and purposes, it is a small brachiosaurus, or brachiosaurus-like creature, or even like a brontosaurus type creature, as well as a lot of the sea monsters or lake monsters, and even sea snakes bear an uncanny resemblance to plesiosaurus. Like the dinosaurs which have flippers. So like Loch Ness, for example. So there is all of that, and again. The thing is, again, I come back to coelacanth. Now, the coelacanth, the locals knew all about it. The people that were fishing the Indian Ocean near Madagascar, they're going, yeah, sure. Look, that's not, it's not a thing. It's we know about it. But it's only when the Westerners came, the experts, the scientists. Oh, look, there's this coelacanth here. It's the same as the coelacanth 65 million years ago. Shock, horror. The locals, they go, yeah, well, that's the fish. Doesn't make very good eating, but we know this fish is here. But we completely dismiss every other thing that locals have to say. The locals, in fact, this was around 120 years ago, were talking about mountain gorillas, right? And the experts said, yeah, sure, whatever, mountain gorillas. Yeah, clearly, you don't know what you're talking about. Until the Westerners came to, I don't know, kill them and bring some pelts or whatever. It wasn't until the Westerners came along and said, yeah, that's right, I saw it, now it's true. The locals talked about the mountain gorillas way before then, right? And they talked about orangutan as well, right? The gentle people of the forest.
That's right. The orange people. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So it is this again. It's this. I don't even know what to call it, Dave. Hubris. Over prideful. It's a self-worth that we simply don't have or shouldn't have in the West. We completely overestimate our importance in the scheme of things.
Meki, you're absolutely right. What I want to bundle into this, and I don't want this to sound like trying to get an American bill through in Congress, but I want to tack onto that all of the other local people's stories of the flood myths of the hairy man or the Yowie or the Sasquatch or the mountain men. All of these stories, to do with Bigfoot. We've got other things. What about the African tribe that says it was Sirius B? It was identified as Sirius B, a star that you can't see. If you can't see it, how'd they know it existed?
That's right.
This is an African tribe. They said we came from there. The people that ruled over us came from there. That's where they came from. They created us. You what? You mean the star you can't see? How do we know a star isn't there? how do we know to identify something that isn't there? And this is what gets me, and this is why with this level of arrogance that seems to be at the top, where, you know, they've got tenure, they're respected now, and they're forced to only comment on the things that they're there for. They can't comment positively on something that's on someone else's research. And that's why this lockstep ridiculousness of research is holding us back.
Yeah.
It holds us back. It really does. I'm reminded, real quick, Mickey, just 2 minutes. Elon Musk said something really extraordinary today. While he's not a tremendous public speaker, he really isn't. He was nervous as hell, I'll tell you. But he was saying you can fly from America to Australia and you could maybe buy a twin prop, you know, small plane. It won't get you there in one go, and it's nearly, you know, $1.2 million. But you can hire a 747 for $500,000. Yeah? What's better, to reuse the 747 or just to buy a plane for the one trip? You know, that's the kind of mentality that needs to change in society. It's the change part. It's the acceptance that something is worthwhile looking at. It's finding a tooth at 7 million years old. 7 million years old. And just accepting it for what it is. So, wow, that's pretty good.
I know.
That's going to change things rather than, oh, I don't know, maybe, you know, I'm going to point back at the chimpanzees again.
Yes.
That arrogance is repulsive.
Yeah. Now, and the final article, in fact, goes right to the core of that. Now, you wouldn't think it's such a controversial issue, but it is. In fact, like we said earlier in other shows, people have lost their careers. Specifically, Elizabeth McIntyre Steen was a promising anthropologist. Now, in fact, is a florist if she's working with us. Now, and this is the last article we're going to share with you on this topic. And it goes to show that just how ingrained these attitudes are. As Dave said earlier, why can't we just accept that things aren't quite as we thought they were, right? I mean, we learn stuff every day, so clearly we don't know everything. So why is it so hard for people to say, yeah, look, you know what, that could be. So this article is called "Smashed Mastodon Bones." Mastodon is an ancient variety of elephant. Reveal a human presence in North America 130,000 years ago. 130,000 years ago. This was written up April 27, 2017. Ancient remains found in California suggest that humans were present in North America some 130,000 years ago, substantially earlier than scientists previously thought. A site in San Diego contains evidence that early human ancestors smashed mastodon bones and teeth to make rudimentary tools. The smattering of bone fragments, stones, and anvils now represents the oldest archaeological site in the Americas, according to a study published in the journal Nature on Wednesday. The oldest widely accepted date for humanity's presence in North America is less than 15,000 years ago. We're talking a factor of 10. We've just moved our goal 10 times into the past. 10 times. If the findings are true, this would make the San Diego site older by a factor of nearly 10, as I said. Extraordinary claims like this require extraordinary evidence. No, they don't. They require the exact same kind of evidence. I hate it when I hear this quote.
It's so ridiculous, that quote, Mickey. I'm with you on that one.
Yeah, I mean, if you've got an extraordinary claim, okay, you need the exact same kind of evidence that you do. And here, okay, so let's finish the quote before I get carried away. Extraordinary claims like this require extraordinary evidence, and we feel that the Cerruti Mastodon site in San Diego preserves such evidence, said Thomas Desmarais, the study's corresponding author and curator of paleontology at the San Diego Natural History Museum. Now he's actually a proponent of what happened here, but my point remains. Extraordinary claims require the exact same kind of evidence like any other claim. Okay? Because if you prove something, boom, it's proven. Or not, as the case may be. Anyway, Some outside experts said they were deeply skeptical that the site is as old as the scientists claim, or that the mastodon bones showed definitive signs of human activity. I was astonished, not because it is so good, but because it is so bad, Donald Grayson, an archaeologist at the University of Washington, told the New York Times. He faulted the study for failing to rule out other explanations for markings on the bones. John McNabb, an archaeologist at the University of Southampton in England, said the study raises more questions than answers. In a commentary published in Nature, he said that to prove this is truly evidence of human activity, more information is needed about how people even arrived there so long ago. But archaeologist Arella Hovers agreed the study points to a much earlier arrival of human relatives than previous studies suggest. The new finding has been rigorously researched and presented, Hovers, a professor at the Hebrew University in Jerusalem, wrote in a commentary for Nature. However, the scientists' proposed narrative about the bone data has some gaping holes that need filling, she added. The study's authors said they don't know which kind of early human ancestor was responsible for the bone breaking, since no human remains were found at the site. They also don't know how humans arrived in Southern California, though they might have crossed the Bering Strait or traveled in a watercraft from Asia. Demaray and his colleagues acknowledged the skepticism toward the study, but they defended the results on a Monday call with reporters, noting the study was the result of more than 2 decades of research. Dave?
Oh my goodness me. They worked on it 20 years and people go, I don't know. Let's just, how do they get there? What? You got to prove that first. Do you? What? Yeah, the bone is there and the evidence is there and the anvils and the tools, but it couldn't be humans then. Surely it must be someone else.
Before you go on, Dave, sorry, before you go on, you know what this reminds me of? I don't know, guys, if you have access to this video, if you can, please go ahead and find it. This is the debate between Robert Schoch, who was the Harvard-trained geologist, and Zahi Hawass and Mark Lehner. Zahi Hawass, the head of the studies of Egyptology in Egypt, and Mark Lehner, also a senior archaeologist in there. They said, so Robert Schoch said the Sphinx is 15,000 years old because of the weathering pattern on the stone, blah blah blah. So that's this geological hard evidence. And Lehner and Hawass said, well, no, that's wrong. Where is the corroborating evidence, the pottery shards or the scriptures that tell us about it, And Schoch goes, no, you don't understand. I mean, this is a rock, and this is how it weathers, and this is what happens in the real world. I don't care about your pottery shards. But they completely dismissed his hard geological evidence, right? So this is the same thing, right? Oh, no. So, yeah, okay, so we've seen this is here, right, okay. But there's nothing else supporting what you're saying. But that's completely irrelevant, guys, because I'm already here. It's here. It's there. There it is. It's like saying, the Baalbek stones, they were moved,
still
right?
But
clearly we don't know how they were moved. Oh, yeah.
I've got another one. Exactly the same argument. Göbekli Tepe.
Yes.
Well, what I can see they're there, but because there's no tools that carved them, I can't tell you and or believe that the site exists. It's not spoken about. We can't date it, right? Because it's like finding a perfectly built house, except that the builders who built it picked up all the nails and the scrap bits of wood and the piece of plastic and whatever it was that built the house and drove it away. Oh, what date? When was that built? Oh, I couldn't tell you. Can't tell you because there's no tools left behind that tell me when it was built.
Yes,
what?
Absolutely. No, that's the thing.
It's preposterous.
But that's the kind of
that's the mentality we're looking at.
Scientific, it's the scientific. It's the scientific mindset in a lot of these people. Now, the next sentence, Dave, is super important. I want you to read that, please, so we can just dwell on that for a second.
San Diego?
That's the one.
All right. San Diego paleontologist first discovered the mastodon bones and rock tools in 1992 during a routine survey at a freeway construction site.
Again, this is completely coincidental, guys. This is a freeway construction. We could talk about mining because we have no idea where to dig. Sorry, I have an idea. Dave has an idea. You know, the old riverbeds, the old coastal lines, that's where you should dig. We're not digging there. This is, again, a complete random find. Come on. What are the... Okay, let me put it this way. So you're finding this one thing. You're just digging somewhere, and you're finding something, right? What are the chances that was the only existing thing at the time, and you are just lucky enough to find it in that place? I reckon there's mountains of evidence everywhere, and we just don't look in the right places. Plus, there's no funding for it anyway. So all these discoveries, they're complete coincidental, and then these great scientific, minds come along and say, "Oh yeah, we found it here." La, la, la. It was luck. Blind luck that you found it, okay? Because you're looking in all the wrong places. It really upsets me when there's all these statements are made about things, but the finds are completely coincidental. In fact, the show that Dave and I spent looking at the findings in the 19th century of the miners.
That's right.
Where things are millions, even tens of millions of years old, completely dismissed. Why? Oh, because there weren't any experts around. Today, we find stuff in the same way. Miners find it. Freeway construction sites, housing construction, who knows what, right? As soon as you start digging stuff up, you're going to find something. Okay? So nothing has changed. The only thing has changed is that scientists get there quicker and the experts go along, la la. But even here, you see where the experts come along and say, oh, well, it took them 20 years to publish their findings. 20 years, guys.
They weren't sitting on them. They were still trying to work it out.
They were terrified.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry, go on, Dave.
That's okay. Look, using an excavator, scientists dug nearly 10 feet below the surface to uncover the remains, which neither geological forces nor human activity had disturbed in over 100,000 years, said Steve Holen. The study leader, author, and director of research at the Center of American Paleolithic Research in South Dakota, said, now Demir said back then the site likely sat near a meandering stream near the coastline, the landscape filled with extinct Ice Age megafauna, including camels, horses, and deer. Today, the dig site is part of a south berm on the north side of a San Diego freeway. Mastodon rib bones, vertebrae, and femurs showed distinct fracture lines that suggest they were broken while fresh, not run over by a truck or demolished by nature millennia later. That's important. Other bone and molar fragments showed evidence of being hit with hard objects, while 5 large hammer stones and anvils at the same site show signs of wear and tear that could only come from human interference, scientists said. To verify their findings, the team conducted 2 experiments on elephant bones using large rock hammers and anvils and produced the same types of fracture patterns. I've actually seen a documentary on this, Mekki. Keep going.
The people were here breaking up the limb bones of this mastodon, probably to make tools out of, and they may also have been extracting the marrow for food, Holland said. He noted that human ancestors in Africa used the same approach on elephant limb bones some 1.5 million years ago. As humans moved out of Africa and across the world, they took this type of technology with them, he said. Researchers studied the bones and archaeological evidence for years, but it wasn't until recently that they were able to accurately estimate the date of the site. James Paces, a research geologist with the U.S. Geological Survey and co-author of the new study, used uranium thorium dating from multiple bone specimens to determine their approximate age. He estimated the bones were about 100,000 years old, plus or minus 9,500 years. And that's even if it's 120,000 years, is well out of the comfort zone for most scientists for human presence in America, based on the distribution of naturally occurring uranium and its decay products. He said other methods, such as radiocarbon dating and luminescence dating, which measures the amount of light emitted from energy stored in rocks, had failed because of the bone's condition. We now have a robust, defensible age for early humans being present in North America more than 100,000 years previous than what people had imagined, Paces told reporters. So if Elizabeth Steen McIntyre had published her findings after this, then she may still have a career. But see, things like this are unassailable. In fact, the findings that she made, and I urge you to do your own research, have not been contradicted yet. But studies that followed up on her work have confirmed what she had found originally. Okay, so
she's the Galileo of our time.
In a way, yes. Certainly, when it comes to American anthropology and paleontology, it's certainly the case, my friend. She was greatly wronged by the establishment.
There's a lot of information there.
No, sorry.
Just to round that off just for a second. She was her staff who were digging at her dig were at gunpoint asked to, and I say asked, forced, maybe coerced into writing, signing affidavits were pre-written, which said that the site had been disturbed which it hadn't, and she was the first archaeologist to map out and grid out the dig and sift everything and bag it the way it is and note down where it was found and in what layers. Extraordinary that her work lives on today. Her methods live on, but her methods were said to have been failed and flawed at her dig when she was discovering the impossible dates for human habitation in North America. It's extraordinary. Mekki.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. No, look, that's exactly right. So let's be clear that some brave scientists will just follow the data. That's just it, right? Maybe they're just simple and naive.
Courageous.
And those are the scientists I applaud. Courageous. They are, right? But they shouldn't have to be courageous. I mean, the science should really be about, well, where does the data lead you? Here, there, everywhere. I mean, will we make mistakes? Of course we'll make mistakes, right? But there's this beautiful saying, if you've never made a mistake, you've never tried anything new, right? So you have to make mistakes. Of course you have to make mistakes. But people are so caught up in their careers, in their reputation, in their status in the scientific world. I mean, in any forum, but in science, of course, as well, that they cannot accept that they could have been wrong all their lives. I mean, I just direct your attention to what Alan Greenspan said. Alan Greenspan, after the collapse of the American economy and the horrible thing that happened, said, I've been wrong for the last 50 or 60 years, whatever it was. What? And exit stage left. There was no consequence. He was. I mean, America had been running on a completely flawed theoretical basis. The Harvard business model simply does not work. It does not work because it assumes a never-ending supply and demand market, completely flawed. Within fairly limited markets and resources in reality, as an example. So yeah, he was wrong. Now I'm just waiting for scientists to stand up and say, the human origins, the interference theory, that seems to be a thing. We were wrong about all the other stuff. Likely, though, this will never happen because the information is tightly controlled because it is such an explosive piece of information. Let's assume for a second. Humor me, that the human race had been interfered with. I'm not saying who or what or how, but let's just say they had. The implications are staggering, right? And there's the music. Now think about the implications, guys.
Thanks for tuning in, and if you stay tuned, there should be a roundtable with Jer Bear, and that's when you can ring up and make your point. Take care, everyone. See you next week.